Welcome friends to another r/maliciouscompliance video. If you want to make a difference today, all you gotta do is hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. That said, our first story of the day is by Seabury 2001. You want me to waste company money schmoozing the wrong guys? Okay. A number of years ago, I worked for a recruiting company that serviced a major automotive plant in the US. This was the first of its kind built in the US and had just recently opened. Now, typically for my company, a business manager, owner, administrator would give us hiring orders for new employees. Usually it's someone in charge who decides to hire new people. With this company, the administration handed the hiring decision to the new hire trainers. Then those trainers would give us the order. I loved these trainers. They were deeply religious, family-oriented guys. Both of them adopted children from rough homes while I knew them. Both were extremely kind and welcoming to my new hires I was sending in, which can be rare in an automotive plant. They'd go on missions with their church to help in struggling areas. While I'm not religious at all myself, I loved how passionate these guys were, and how it reflected in working alongside them. The plant lowered production, and our orders for new hires slowed. My manager started getting on my butt. "Hey, go ask Bill and Ted if there's any new hires they need. Take them to dinner and see if you can talk them into more employees." I explained repeatedly to my boss that Bill and Ted do not make hiring decisions. Those decisions come way over their head, and they just relay it. I was told I'm new to the business and don't understand how networking works. Finally, my boss's boss got on my butt when he was in the region for a meeting. I needed to push these guys to make new orders. So I checked my limits for how much I could spend schmoozing clients. And then I took these guys all around town for months. A new steakhouse opened, you guys want to try? Bring your wives and let's go. Do you guys want to hit the billiards club for lunch? The whole ticket's on me. Office want breakfast burritos and coffee delivered? Send your orders in and I'll bring it on my way. At some point, I figured there would be some backlash over the money I was spending. I even found the max I was allowed to tip and was maxing it out every time to give out more money to the waitresses. I was wrong. The plant cycled up again, and I think my managers believed those new orders came from the money I was spending, and not the typical ebbs and flows of auto manufacturing. Eventually, I left the industry and these guys moved on to other jobs. We had a blast on the company dime while it lasted. If you were given a budget to schmooze and you could spend it on lunch all the time and get real nice meals, would you be just about maxing out that limit every time you could? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by Federal Ant 9, Ex's divorce lawyer. Send 3 years of complete financials or else. I say, as you wish. This happened several years ago when my ex and I were going through a heated divorce/custody battle. While we were married, we had a couple of conversations about how rich people hide their assets to avoid paying taxes. I've never had enough assets to do this, but she somehow got the idea that I was, and told her attorney that I was laundering money and hiding income. It was more likely the heat of the moment, as divorce/custody battles often come down to. I couldn't even afford my own attorney, so I represented myself. Her lawyer wasn't a total jerk, but he was clearly out to get me, and he talked down to me like I didn't deserve to breathe the same air. One day, I get a letter in the mail from him requesting an updated income declaration form and 3 years of financials. It had a long list of things to include. I own a communications tech company that was in super startup phase back then. Money was already tight. I was trying to get this business off the ground with no financing. I was finishing my MBA with scholarships and loans, so paying for copies and postage or driving this 30 miles to his office meant eating peanut butter and saltines for a week. So I called him to explain my situation. He all but called me a liar and didn't believe I couldn't afford it. I was put off by that, and I said this was taking time away from the business I needed to handle. To which he replied, and I'll never forget this, "Well, according to your income declarations, you're not that busy. What do you do all day?" He then said if he didn't get these documents, he would consider my previous filings as fraudulent, tell the judge, contact the DA, and also alert the state tax agency and IRS. Probably an empty threat, but I'm no lawyer. eFax is one of the services my company provides, and at this time it was relatively unknown, so I asked him if he has a fax machine. He said he has a fax scanner copier device, then said, "What law office doesn't have a fax machine?" And suddenly I got an idea. "Okay," I said to him, "I'll put together and fax whatever I can." "Okay, jerk, you want 3 years of financials? You got it. I scanned to PDF every receipt I could find. McDonald's receipt from 5 years ago? Screw it, won't hurt to include it. CVS receipt? It's 3 miles long, perfect. They get the $1 off toothpaste coupons too. I downloaded every bank statement, credit card statement, purchase orders from vendors, and every invoice I sent to clients. I printed to PDF the entire 3-year accounting journal, monthly, quarterly, annual balance sheets, cash flow statements, P&Ls. Not only did I PDF 3 years of tax filings, but every single letter I received from the IRS and state tax agency, including the inserts advising me of my rights. It took a while, but I was a few days ahead of the deadline. I made a cover page background with white lettering. Wherever I could, I included separator pagers in all caps in the biggest, boldest font that would fit on the page in landscape. 2000 so-and-so receipts, 2000 so-and-so taxes, etc. I merged everything into a single 150-plus page compressed PDF and sent the document using my eFax system. Every hour or so, I received a status email saying the fax failed. That's weird. Well, they're getting this document, so I changed the system configuration to unlimited retries after failures to keep redialing until it went through. Weird, I was still getting status email failures. I'll delete the failure emails and keep the success ones after it eventually goes through, I thought. Problem solved. 2 days later, a lady from his office called and asked me to stop sending the fax. Their fax scanner printer copier had been printing non-stop. It kept getting paper jams, kept running out of ink, and they had to keep shutting it off and back on to print. I explained that her boss told me to send this by the deadline or else he would call the DA and IRS. Since I didn't want a call from the DA or the IRS, I would keep sending until I get a success confirmation. I suggested they just not print until my fax completes, but she didn't like that. She asked me to email the documents, and I told a little white lie that my email wouldn't allow an attachment that big. Unless her boss in writing agreed to cancel the request or agree to reimburse me for my cost to print and ship, I said I would continue to fax until they confirm they've received every page. She put me on hold, and the attorney gets on the line. He said, "Forget sending the financials." So I'll keep sending the fax until he sent that to me. He asked me to stop faxing and he would send it in writing, and I said send it in writing first and then I'll stop. Long moment of silence. Click. About 20 minutes later, I received an email from his assistant with an attached signed letter in PDF that I no longer need to provide financials. The letter then threatened to pursue sanctions in court or sue me for interfering with their business. Every time I saw him after that, the lawyer never brought up sanctions, lawsuits, criminal referrals, or financials again. Now, in a situation like that, I don't know what the legality is as far as what you're obligated to do to deliver them documents. Like, is OP giving them those financial statements a courtesy because they did drop it altogether at the end? Would there ever be a situation where OP is actually obligated to drive and give them papers or deliver the papers to them in some kind of way? Doesn't that kind of thing actually go through the court or no? I think what I'm learning the most is that I don't understand anything about the process of court or divorce. Our next story is by Diligent Cockroach 700. New director tries to throw their weight about. This happened a few years ago before I retired. I was IT tech support for a medium-sized company with about 500 employees and the full management structure with departments and a board of directors. We had a new director start in the PR department. Let's call her Karen. It's company policy for directors to be issued with a laptop computer. We used quite a lot of bespoke software in our company, so we'd done a lot of research into the best laptops to get. Not the cheapest by any means, so we'd pre-purchased one and set it up for her with all the necessary stuff loaded on, so she was all set to go. I was unfortunately the guy who took it up to her office on her first day. I took it into her office, all smiles and, "Good morning, welcome to company name, here's your laptop." She took one look at it and said, "I don't want that pile of poop, I only use other brand of laptop." I was somewhat taken aback, but not being a very confrontational person, I just said, "Okay," turned tail and made a hasty exit. By the time I got back to the IT office, she'd already been on the phone to the IT director, who'd been on the phone to my boss. My boss basically said get her what she wants. She had specified the exact make and model of laptop, so we ordered it. It turned up in a couple of days and we configured it, and then I dropped it up to her. to a about time or similar comment. Within days, she was on the phone to the help desk complaining that it was slow, kept crashing, etc. We did the best we could, but this was exactly why we used the other brand of laptop. Eventually, she got fed up and called the IT director to complain that we were all incompetent. He told her in no uncertain terms that the problem was her and her insistence in overriding the IT department's decision. She then asked for one of our regular laptops, and he told her the one that we had got for her had been allocated to somebody else, and it would be a minimum of a 6-week wait for a new one. After the 6 weeks was up, I took her the exact same laptop that I had taken before and had been sitting on the shelf in our storeroom all that time. After that, we hardly had a peep out of her. I'm wondering if this is a Windows versus Apple thing, or if this was somebody that was like, no, I only want Alienware. The confusing thing to me is, as far as laptops go, what's odd to me is somebody being so dependent on one brand for a laptop. Depending on the price point, most laptops are probably going to use the same hardware, so maybe she wanted one of those fancy brands that has a big old screen and looks really nice, but all the hardware is just old, not very good, slow. This next story is by 18 Just Me. A teacher complains to me that I'm not heading outside fast enough on a break. I comply. This happened in middle school. I was around 15 and I had to have knee surgery due to an injury. I was in constant pain and had to use crutches to move around. The teachers in this school were not good nor professional, and this is an example of this. It was midwinter, around -20 degrees Celsius outside. The school had a very strict rule that we had to go outside during our breaks, and the teachers loved to yell at us, "Out, out, out," or "What are you doing here? Out!" So back to the story, I sat down to be able to put my shoes on. Well, I have long legs but short arms, so it was a struggle to get the shoe on the hurting operated knee that I can't move. A teacher stopped in front of me, and I thought to myself, really? The teacher yells, "Why is it taking so long? You should be outside by now." I say, "As you know, I had surgery on my knee a couple of weeks ago." The teacher says, "The students in elementary school are faster and you're 15. You need to get out." I say, "Okay." I look her in the eyes, take my crutches and stand up. With one shoe on my foot, a t-shirt and jeans, I just calmly walk outside. My classmates try not to laugh, but it's hard for them. The teacher yelling from the door says, "What do you think you're doing?" And I, as innocent as I can, say, "I went outside, as he told me to do." The teacher says, "That's not what I meant. Get inside and put your other shoe and jacket on." I say, "But that'll mean I can't be outside the whole break." She says, "Inside now." I start walking back inside. I say, "I just did as he told me to. Make up your mind where you want me to be." Every student outside just started laughing, and some of them fell on the ground. I just looked the teacher in the eyes as I put my other shoe on, which took around 10 minutes before I got it so tight that it didn't fall off. I've heard that this story is still told in school, and I'm proud of my legacy. You gotta just hate teachers who are on a power trip. The teachers literally have nothing to do and nowhere to go during these breaks. But yet they're still more than happy to come up to you like, "What are you still doing here? You're supposed to be outside." They have crutches and they're trying to put their shoes on. Give them a break. Just gotta say something to this kid. And our final story of the day is by Pineapples372. No unnatural hair color. Worked as a waiter at a restaurant a few years ago. I had the ends of my hair dyed green, and the regional manager repeatedly pressured me to dye it black or trim that bit. Eventually, I shaved my entire head, which did remove the offending hair color. Store manager was a middle-aged balding man who also had his head shaved. I'm read as a young woman, so it was more offensive on me, I guess, but they couldn't technically complain. Next time the regional manager saw me, she jokingly/exasperatedly said, "What is wrong with you?" And that was the last I heard of the matter. I think what's nice as we're going along, we continue to move into the future. Somebody working at a restaurant with hair with green tips dyed. I wouldn't bat an eye. If anything, I'd be like, that's a cool decision. What I'm trying to say is I think it's good that it's becoming more acceptable to just allow people to express themselves in whatever way they want with their hair, as long as it's not something legitimately offensive. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel, and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.